In December 2023, Amtrak was awarded a $500,000 grant from the Federal Railroad Administration to study expanding Amtrak service to Ronkonkoma on Long Island, New York. In today's video, we'll discuss what the proposed service will look like, the fleet and infrastructure upgrades needed, and finally, my vision of Amtrak service to Ronkonkoma. According to Amtrak's proposal, 3 Northeast regional round trips between Washington, D.C. and New York Penn Station will be extended via the Long Island Railroad to Ronkonkoma, with 2 intermediate stops in Jamaica and Hicksville. Currently, passengers have to get off at New York Penn Station to transfer between Amtrak and Long Island Railroad services. With the expanded service, people can travel directly between points in Queens, Nassau and Suffolk counties, and cities on the Northeast Corridor south of New York City, such as Newark, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., and etc. While I'm glad to see Amtrak expanding its service to Long Island, there are a few problems that we need to address. The Long Island Railroad uses third rail to power trains. However, the Siemens ACS-64 locomotives, the major fleet of locomotives currently used on Amtrak's Northeast Regional Service, uses catenary. According to Amtrak, they plan to run diesel power when they get onto Long Island. The good news is that the new Siemens Charger diesel-electric locomotives are being ordered and will likely be used on this service. These locomotives receive Tier 4 emission certification from the Environmental Protection Agency, so should be much more environmentally friendly. However, I still hope that Amtrak can run with electric power on Long Island in the future, and I came up with 2 ways to do so. The first one is to install catenary along the section of the Long Island Railroad that Amtrak is planning to run on. By doing so, Amtrak's ACX-54 and future Siemens Charger locomotives will be able to run with electrified power between New York Penn Station and Ronkonkoma. However, Amtrak will need to work with the MTA for this to happen. Another solution is for Amtrak to purchase a fleet of locomotives that can be powered by both catenary and third rail. This way, the locomotives can simply make a switch at New York Penn Station. Both of these solutions would add cost to the project, so a cost-benefit analysis will be needed to examine it. Besides the power source, a series of track and station upgrades may be needed for this project to move forward. Ronkonkoma Station will likely need a new platform to accommodate the new service. Additionally, a new terminal for MacArthur Airport, along with a transit-oriented development, will be built next to the station as part of the Midway Crossing project. These changes will transform Ronkonkoma into an important hub for transportation, commercial, and other uses, creating a lot of potential for the proposed Amtrak service. I would also suggest track upgrades that will allow Amtrak trains to run at a higher speed on out-of-the-bar tracks. Both Amtrak's ACS-64 and Siemens Charger locomotives can run at a speed of 125 miles per hour, but with existing infrastructure of the out-of-the-bar, speed is likely going to be limited. To me, that is lost potential. Hopefully, track and other infrastructure upgrades can allow for higher operational speeds on the line. Finally, I will be sharing my vision of Amtrak service to Ronkonkoma, since we are spending the money to do all sorts of upgrades to make this happen. I want to expand the destinations of Amtrak service at Ronkonkoma. Besides for the 3 round trips to Washington, D.C. that Amtrak proposed, I also propose for 1 round trip along the Empire Corridor to Albany in upstate New York. I propose for all of these services to use Siemens Charger locomotives and Siemens Venture passenger cars for initial operations, and consider the projects that can make fully electrified service possible at a later date. Currently, the fastest out-of-the-bar train between New York Penn Station and Ronkonkoma takes 75 minutes. The Amtrak service will likely be faster than that with fewer stops and higher speeds. So we will assume that the travel time for the Amtrak service to be around 70 minutes from New York Penn Station to Ronkonkoma. Based on the existing Amtrak schedules and the travel time estimates, I came up with a draft schedule. This schedule is pretty rough, but you can get an idea of how the future service might look like. I will not be listing the arrival and departure times for the intermediate stops for the sake of time. Starting in the morning, train 232 will depart Albany at 5:55 a.m., arriving in New York City at 8:16 a.m. and arriving in Ronkonkoma at 9:26 a.m. After that, train 119 will depart Ronkonkoma at 10:03 a.m., arriving in New York City at 11:13 a.m., and arriving in Washington, D.C. at 2:49 p.m. Then, train 233 will depart Ronkonkoma at 10:10 a.m., arriving in New York City at 11:20 a.m., and arriving in Albany at 1:51 p.m. Train 112 will depart Washington, D.C. at 7:45 a.m., arriving in New York City at 11:14 a.m. and arriving in Ronkonkoma at 12:25 p.m. Train 133 will depart Ronkonkoma at 12:39 p.m., arriving in New York City at 1:49 p.m. and arriving in Washington, D.C. at 5:09 p.m. Train 114 will depart Washington, D.C. at 10:10 a.m., arriving in New York City at 1:36 p.m. and arriving in Ronkonkoma at 2:46 p.m. Train 129 will depart Ronkonkoma at 3:29 p.m., arriving in New York City at 4:39 p.m. and arriving in Washington, D.C. at 8:09 p.m. Train 148 will depart Washington, D.C. at 3:05 p.m., arriving in New York City at 6:44 p.m. and arriving in Ronkonkoma at 7:54 p.m. Some of these trains currently only run on weekdays, but I will assume that they also provide weekend service under my draft. With all this being said, Amtrak has stated that the earliest date for service to Ronkonkoma is 2028, but we should expect updates about this service in the time in between, so stay tuned. What do you think about expanding Amtrak service to Ronkonkoma? Do you think it is a good idea? Share your thoughts with me in the comments below. If you enjoyed my video, you can now support me via a superfan. This will help me produce more great content in the future. If you want to see more transit-related content, check out this playlist. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that playlist.